All right. So, welcome everyone. Just gonna wait a few minutes for some viewers to come on here. I have baby Justice here, who I'm sure will be chiming in. So while I get things situated here, I'm going to give you the opportunity to settle in, get your phones silenced and ready for today's presentation. So I'm just going to give it some minutes and some time. Hey, Justin. Yeah, I think he's going to say a lot today, right? Got a lot to say? Got a lot to say. All right. So I'm just going to get things started here. I'm going to wait a few minutes. Give people a chance to come on. Ooh. Yes. Okay. Okay. So while we're waiting, I just wanted to point out a few things. This is again my first time trying to do a Google Hangouts on air like this. It's very exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. So if it takes a while for me to get to my content, no worries. I'm not trying to do that, but trying to do my best to settle with the baby and get to the content. And again, I'm just waiting a few minutes. I'm sure I'll put maybe a little square card for you to skip through to the juicy stuff. Okay. Ooh. Hey, I see somebody coming on. Hi. Don't worry about your video. It's all good. Well, of course. Oh, no worries, honey. No worries. You see me with my head wrap, right? And Justice is ready to say hi. Yeah. No problem. Multitask, mommy. Multitask. You too. This is very nerve-wracking to do. um, because it's my first time. So I'm just trying to figure it out as I go here. But video is the new it's the new everything. If you've noticed on social media, people use video a lot. And so I thought, well, why not use it as a means to share information that I think is going to be pertinent to any mom, urban moms who are thinking about homeschooling. A lot of what I'm going to share, I found out, over a year ago. I've actually experienced on some level. And some of the things I found out that they were pretty new to me, but I also they didn't surprise me either. So some of the statistics and things that I'm going to cover are going to hopefully shed some good light for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to kill your time and I don't want him to get too restless here. Let me go ahead and try to share this screen for you. Yeah, let me do that. Hold on one second. Uh-oh. What did that? Okay. Figure this out. How to share the screen. Okay. And if I can share the screen, that would be wonderful. Here we go. God bless you, my love. All right. So you see my screen, right? Homeschooling for the urban mom. Okay, awesome. Just want to confirm that. All right. So homeschooling for the urban mom, considerations for a metro mommy. And so I am a metro mommy. I call that that term a metro mommy as a mom who pretty much understands that living in a metropolitan area like we do here in South Florida and Miami in particular requires us to be very resourceful, requires us to have a certain kind of stamina and energy when it comes to our mothering, when it comes to our parenting, when it comes to how we choose to interact with our community and serve our community. And so I'm sharing this presentation hopefully with women who are like-minded, who understand their role as a mom can extend outside of the four walls and of their home. And so I'm hoping that as you're here, you can get the most out of it. And so I just want to thank you for joining me. And at this time, just do whatever you can to ensure that you're engaged as much as possible and that you are focused. I know you're, doing some things in the background. That's fine as we multitask. I'm going to remind my children to go back to bed really quickly. Please go back to bed, okay? Thank you. And close your door, please. All right. I'm sorry about that. All right. So a little bit about me for those who may not know. I am a doula for mommy, advocate for baby, and helper for family. I've been married for 7 years to my husband. And I have 4 naturally birthed boys who pretty much turned me into a clean eating foodie chef who, just learned a lot about how to deal with moves and transitions and things like that. So over the course of the past 7 years or so, I've experienced a lot of transitions, a lot of financial instability at times and food insecurity. And, I've had to deal with my body changing multiple times due to these pregnancies. Excuse me. But all the while I've been trusting God. And so now I know that I've been called to sort of serve women, whether they're pregnant or not, and to help them navigate through these, delicate moments in their life. So, excuse me. I'm now also an official homeschooling mommy. I like to think that I was unschooling for a few years before I actually started officially like a formal program last year. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So my question is, are you a metro mommy? I defined it a little bit, but I just want to share my mission and my vision because I think that might give you some clarification on what that means. So my mission is to influence, enlighten, and serve women with support and education to navigate through their journey into motherhood and become healthy contributors to the wellness of their society. And so how I do that is through support, whether that's physical, emotional, or informational, but also through education. I'm big on educating moms on what they need to know to go through motherhood and be able to support their children. My vision is that, we would have communities where birth disparities are eliminated as women fully equipped for birth and beyond, build their healthy families with confidence. So I want to increase confidence in these moms so that they can be able to get their I guess momentum when it comes to being a mother. And so I start at birth with my work as a doula. But I do see that there is a continuation of this vision and this mission unfolding when I serve moms after they've had babies within that first 5 years of their child's life. And so I just want to point out that our child's next steps cannot be taken without educating ourselves first. So why are you here? I'm not sure what led you to, join this call, but maybe you're frustrated with the public school system, with the testing and the off days and the schedules. Maybe you're considering all the options before your child enters a school setting. Maybe you have financial constraints and you understand that, putting your child in a private school or a public school setting is not going to be able to support your family financially in the long run. Maybe you have confidence in teaching your own child, something that I think I have. Maybe you have the fear of the unknown at a school setting, peer pressure, bullying. You've seen reports on TV of certain crimes and violence happening in schools across our country. Maybe you're afraid of negative influences, and maybe the values that you're instilling in your child being challenged. Could it be maybe the teachers, the really bad ones, right? I'm not going to knock any teachers because I know some of them really want to do well, and they are constrained due to different things like bureaucracy, red tape, and big government. But maybe there's also this need for control over the curriculum and the learning, the types of things that your child is going to be learning. You want to maybe have some control over that. And maybe you've just always wanted to homeschool, or you were homeschooled as a child yourself. So here's the deal. You have you can only have boys or girls, right? And so there is some people who might feel like there's a bias towards, excuse me, which type of gender would be perfect for a homeschool setting. But here are the facts. One researcher finds that homeschooling actually gives young people an unusual chance to ask questions such as, who am I and what do I really want? And through that process of asking those kinds of questions and gradually answering these questions, home educated girls actually develop the strengths and the resistance abilities that usually give them a strong sense of self. So we know that for girls, homeschooling can be that thing that helps sort of set up their identity. If they're in a public school setting, they're going to be susceptible to all kinds of girls who are still trying to figure out their identity. But when we have these moments to pause and ask these questions, and give these opportunities for these girls to be asking these questions, this is what happens. They develop some kind of strength and resistance so that they know who they are. When they leave the house, when they go wherever, when they're out and about, whether they're with mom or without dad or whatever it is. That's very, very encouraging to me. I don't have any girls, so I sort of fall in this category here where the next bullet point, where some think that boys' energetic natures and tendency to physical expression can more easily be accommodated in a home-based education. And so my kids, I always describe them as very energetic. And I always picture and envision that their energy is not going to be well appreciated in a public school setting. And so I had a little taste of that, and I'll share a little bit more about my story later, where I found that to be true. And so this is where you want to point out and remember that many are concerned that a highly disproportionate number of public school special education students are boys, and that boys are 2.5 times as likely as girls in public schools to be diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. And so I think in my line of thinking for whether I'm going to homeschool or not, I thought about this particular fact. I thought about it a lot. But now there's always this concern of, okay, well, what about, social skills? What about your child's social skills? So here's the deal. There's a difference between social skills and socialization. So social skills has to do with age-appropriate ability to interact socially and build relationships. Can your child listen carefully? Can your child build trust? Can your child be honest in order to build trust, right? Socialization, though, has to do with learning social norms to navigate through society. So this has more to do with what is expected of them in order to be a citizen that would, abide by the rules and the laws and things like that. So you have to decide which is most important to your family. I feel personally that I can socialize my child, but I don't feel personally that our public school systems, the way that they're set up, are able to really teach social skills properly, or at least with my values in mind. So the home educated, apparently, according to research, that they're doing well, typically above average on the measures of social, emotional, and physiological development. And so when you look at, how are they able to interact with their peers, their idea of themselves, their leadership skills, right? Family cohesion. This is a huge one. How close they are to their families. They tend to do better than kids that are not homeschooled. Okay. So this is some research that I found as well, that I'm going to point to. I'll source it. I'll cite it, I think, on a later slide, where they look at this pre-K to third grade framework. And I'm looking at, particularly because we're urban moms, we would fall in that category of being a minority or African American or Black, or however you want to describe your race. And these are the things that we know, when we've looked at the research, helps Black students grow. Having effective and aligned instruction across consecutive years. So being consistent throughout the years, early years in particular, before grade 3, is really going to help a Black student grow. Positive relationship development between children and their teachers, right? So having a teacher that is not necessarily just their best friend or like, oh, they're buddy all the time, but it's a positive relationship. It's not something where they're coming in the room and they see this person as like a negative force in their life. This is something that takes time to develop. I think it takes mutual respect in order for it to develop. And this is what's required to help Black students grow. Strong family and community engagement, which is a big complaint in a lot of school districts when it comes to schools that are located in mostly Black communities, is that there's a lack of family and community involvement and engagement. Importance of social emotional development. So dealing with the feelings, right? There is very little to hardly any time really to develop that space, that safe space for a student to share where they're at emotionally with teachers. Okay, teachers don't have the time like we think to really do that and to do it well. Access to full day, high quality pre-K and kindergarten. This is something I worked on as a person who worked with childcare licensing, was improving the quality in our, daycare centers, childcare centers, and different early learning, early childhood learning centers and things like that. When you increase that and you increase the access to it, you give more opportunities for these children to be engaged and start to enjoy learning a lot earlier versus waiting until they're in kindergarten. Now that's their first day of school. So that's why we have all of these grant funded and, stipends and different subsidies available for VPK and different programs like that. Excuse me, I'm getting somebody on the call. Sorry, hold on. Hello? Hi, yes. Can you go on the YouTube, because I'm on it live right now.
You can look up my, and then Metro Mommy Agency. Okay.
All right, no problem. Bye. All right, so I'm sorry about that. The last point I want to bring up is successful, supportive, and seamless transitions. Wow. Okay, so transitions. That's something I know a lot about, right? So transitions. Not only do the children need transitions from grade to grade, but transitions from life stages to life stages, you know, and whether they're moving and whether their financial status is changing. Black students need successful, supportive, seamless transitions. They need to be able to move from different phases of life in a way that's not going to disrupt them. Oh boy, I'm sorry, he's upset. And so we'll talk about that again when I share a little bit more. So let's look at some homeschooling statistics. So homeschooling is actually quickly growing in popularity among minorities. About 15% of homeschool families are non-white or non-Hispanic, okay? And a demographically wide variety of people homeschool. And so one study even showed that as much as 32% of homeschool students are Black, Asian, Hispanic, or other. And that was as of 2013. And so I'm sorry, I'm dealing with data that far back, but that's usually how statistics work. I'm not going to find anything too current, except for maybe in a few slides what I share with you. But on average, I want you to just focus in on that a little bit. The fact that it is growing in popularity. Something is going on when we're looking back at this research, when we're looking at test scores, when we're looking at, you know, what's going on in different school districts. Something is going on that is causing parents to want to start homeschooling. And I don't know all of their reasons, but I do know that it's something that you really want to consider strongly, and pay attention to the fact that it's happening in the Black community in growing numbers. So homeschool students score above average on achievement tests regardless of their parents' level of formal education or their family's household income. So there is this appeal that whether you're rich or you're poor, you can homeschool. Whether you have a high school diploma or a college degree, you can homeschool. And it's not going to affect how well your children actually score, which is really encouraging because it means now that you don't have to be a certified teacher, okay, in order to homeschool. And so this was always some stat that really stayed with me and made me think about homeschooling in the long term. Like some parents, they actually think about starting to homeschool in the elementary years and then maybe putting the child in public school setting by middle school years. And then I don't know what they plan to do after that, but I plan at the very least starting that way. And at the very least returning back to high school for sure, because of this stat here, that the fact that they can score on average on the SAT and the ACT test, they score well above average. Okay. And that's what really stood out to me when I was considering it. So here's a quote, just so you get aware of the gist of the climate. A quote from school administration. More often than not, at urban public schools, parents are described as uncaring, dysfunctional, unsupportive, and part of the problem, rather than being seen as partners capable of making meaningful contributions to the education of children. They are more likely to be seen as obstacles in the way of progress and problems to be overcome. And I honestly heard this from an administrator myself. I don't know how that makes you feel, but I felt very uncomfortable when I heard it because, for one, I knew this administrator personally. And number two, I had always intended on being a very involved kind of parent when it comes to my child's schooling. And that's why when I came in and I walked into the school, this was when my child was in VPK. When I walked into the school, the first thing I looked for was what's in their little, little brochure, magazine, kind of like, oh my gosh, I should know what it's called. The thing that holds these brochures, the brochure holders and things like that. They often store little flyers and important notices that parents should, pick up, newsletters, that kind of a thing. So I looked at that. That was one of the first things I noticed. And in that school, for some reason, they had things from the previous school year. So for me, when I see stuff from the previous school year that's like outdated, not even like in the current school year, being put out, it lets me know that you think that I don't care about what's going on in the school. It lets me also know that I'm not going to be the only problem here if I'm not like being an active person or, providing a meaningful contribution to this school. It means that some things are going to be overlooked here. And that's the message that I got. And so I would highly recommend, if you're already in a school setting, like your child is already in a school setting and you're seeing things like that, that would make me also wonder what else is being, forgotten. Okay. Because at the very least, you should want to be in clear communication with your parents and be putting out current information, relevant information. I noticed the same thing on the school website. The same thing also on the Miami-Dade County Public School website. There's just a lot of things that are outdated, certain links that don't work, and that kind of a thing. And then the other thing that really made me feel like this quote is totally not true is the fact that when I did sign up to be a volunteer, nobody contacted me, not one soul, and I don't know why. But I have to say this. It does matter where you go to school. It does matter where you send your child to school, because if the child is being sent in a community where it is majority Black, you have to hope and bank that the staff, the administration, and everyone who is there understands what diversity means. And so over here, I have this little thing here for you. Different individuals valuing each other regardless of skin, intellect, talent, or years. They have to respect that in order to space where your child is truly going to be nurtured, truly going to be able to learn and be educated and supported through their educational journey. So here's the deal. When we say we're not going to homeschool, we actually give up our opportunity to educate. So on here, I have a table. I'm going to try to pull it up, where it shows. I hope you're seeing this. Are you seeing this table here? All right. Yes, you are. You're seeing this table. Okay. So on this table here, you'll see that at the very top, no. This is childcare arrangements for kids that are 3 to 5 years old. They're not quite in kindergarten. And this particular column right here, I'm going to scroll down. This is from 1991 to 2012, and it tells you the data for Black children. This is what we're looking at mostly. So all of the Black children in terms of percentage, in terms of thousands, okay, are here. I'm looking at specifically here. This is the number that stood out to me. That really made my head roll a little bit. Across the board, more than in any other group or ethnic group, Black children are spending a majority of their time in non-parental arrangements, meaning someone other than their parent is caring for them, okay, when they're this age. Okay. And so here I have the little babies sort of showing you that majority of the time they're spending their time at a center, like a childcare center, maybe family daycare home or something like that, or a relative, maybe grandma, an aunt, an uncle, or a non-relative. 83.5% of the time. And only 16.5% of the time are they actually with their parents only. So when you have someone spending that much time away from their parent, during this age where I feel like they're still sponges, they are still sponges. They're ready to learn, and learn from moment to moment, second to second. You can be teaching and teaching and teaching. When is a parent ever going to build that relationship socially, emotionally, if they're spending that much time away, right? And so this can include school as well, right? Preschool. All right. And so imagine now starting off this way. It's apparently most Black people, this is what we do. We start off mostly this way. And it doesn't tend to change once they hit kindergarten, right? So that's where we have to rethink some things. So I just wanted to share my personal experience year one. I just had the first year of formal homeschooling with my son. We used a program called Classical Conversations. And at first, it was everything I wanted and hoped for and dreamed of. And so my plans for homeschooling, sorry about that, homeschooling, was to make sure my child was challenged, and actually able to really stretch his brain a little bit. Because what was happening is I had a 5-year-old. He was 5 at the time. I had a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I was pregnant, I think, at the time. Pregnant, or I just had the baby, one or the other. But it was a wide gap, too wide for me to put everyone on the same curriculum and still find him challenged. So I ended up saying, well, let me put him on a different program that would challenge everyone, that potentially I could have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old a part of that curriculum and it be no problem, and my 5-year-old still be challenged. And that's what happened. He was actually challenged with the material, in the sense that it was brand new material, things that he would probably touch on in middle school or high school for the first time, right? But he's seeing it, at least the words and the grammar of it all, right now. And he loved it. It was great, really cool structure I can't really divulge too much, because legally I'm bound to not really divulge too much about it. But just know he was very challenged. And what actually happened was he really enjoyed it, but there was a huge lack of social interaction and social skills, for my liking. I just found that we were kind of isolated in the community because of our race. I didn't experience racism directly, but in a very indirect way, found that we could not really be as cohesive in the community. And that really made things really hard towards the end, because I sort of felt like, okay, based on what he was taught, in terms of the teaching and the history that we covered, I really shouldn't expect anything different, to say the least. So in so many words, I want something more for my child. I want something different this time around. And I want it to be such that he can still feel like himself, be himself, not be challenged and questioned over and over about why he's able to learn so well. And so that's why I put that quote there. Resisting the relentless rumors of inferiority about our children and about ourselves as parents is exhausting. And that's literally how I felt at the end of it. My kids both, I promise you, I did not do any extra drilling of the information other than what was presented the day of every homeschooling day. I also did not do any drilling when I was home just preparing to teach, because I actually taught one of the classes. And somehow my kids would remember this stuff weeks and weeks after it was taught. And I would always be asked, wow, how did he do that? How does he remember that? I got tired of being asked these questions. And I don't want to have to answer that anymore. Because yes, my child is Black, and yes, he can learn. He has complete, aptitude to be able to learn. Okay. And that's it, point blank. And so I don't plan on returning back. I would hope instead to do something a little different. I'm still going to be homeschooling, but I'd like to do it with more like-minded moms and families who understand that my experience as a Black mom in this country, my son's experience as a Black boy, and future Black men in this country is going to require some nurturing, some attention, some love, some trust, and belief that they actually are capable of learning what they need to learn. Okay, so for you, my story may be different from yours in terms of why you want to homeschool. But here's what you want to really consider. What's the ideal lifestyle you want for your family? I ideally want to not have to stress my brain about waking up a certain time or missing school for, a certain number of times, and then DCF is knocking at my door. I could not deal with that lifestyle. What will it take for you to have that lifestyle? Whatever it is that you want it to look like, whether it's finances, whether it is, more research, more education on how to do this. What are the obstacles, sacrifices, and expenses will you incur? This is something I didn't even think about before I did VPK, which was the fact that if I'm waking up at a certain time, I have to cook breakfast. If I don't, I leave my child susceptible to eating mush at the public school, or not eating mush, and having a child who's famished come 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And now I have to make sure I have more than enough adequate snacks and things like that, and make sure I have dinner ready, which, sometimes you're exhausted. You don't even want to do that. And now you're eating out, and now it's costing you more than it would have cost you had you just stayed home the whole day and just knocked out a few lessons and stayed on a good little routine and schedule. What are the benefits and bonuses and savings you will receive if you were considering homeschooling, or if you're considering, placing your child in public school? You have to think about that. What are those pluses? What are those, things that you cannot do without, that you want to receive? And then you have to ask yourself, what does God want you to do? I felt like God was really calling me to do this a very long time ago. And I was just, wanting it to be a certain way, wanting it to be perfect, and wanting more so stability, because we moved quite a bit. And, listening to what other people were saying, well, you can't have a child, traveling this much and thinking you're going to get far in terms of educating them. My child, especially my second, we traveled the most with him. He's right on track. He's right on track and ahead of the game when it comes to what a 4-year-old is capable of doing, in spite of all of the transitions, in spite of all of the instability. Then you have to ask yourself whether the gifts, talents, and vocational experiences that can impact a child's life that you have. What are your gifts? Okay. Your gifts that you've been given, your talents, your vocational experiences, those jobs that you've had in the past, how can they actually impact your child's life or any other child's life? It's not for no reason. You've gotten this experience for a reason. You've learned how to do these spreadsheets for a reason. You're gonna like be able to help your child, high school, be able to knock some things out. Probably middle school now, because everybody has to be computer literate a lot earlier. And then, what subjects do you really want your children's education to cover? And what subjects do you not want them to cover, right? Because you have a choice. You really have a choice, right down to what they learn. Okay. What's really cool about living in Florida is the homeschooling requirements, I promise you, are not that serious. They're not a huge deal when it comes down to it. Sorry, I'm missing a bullet, extra bullet there. They are very simple, very straightforward, and very easy to understand. All you have to do right here is notify your school superintendent in the county that you plan on homeschooling, and you have to do it within 30 days of starting. Okay, so you could say, hey, September 1st, I'm going to start. So by September 30th, October 1st, you have to send this in writing via email, honestly. And I have all that information if you want to connect with me afterwards on how to, send that. I have a sample letter, everything like that. That's all you have to do. And you basically put the school district on notice that, yeah, you're going to be homeschooling. And then all you have to do is maintain a portfolio of records and materials. And what's really cool about this is a portfolio could be anything. It could be real hard copy papers. It could be on CD, all of the pictures and images. It could be a website. It could be all kinds of things. As long as it's showcasing this, that you had a log of actual educational activities, okay, that went with the instruction, and any reading materials that you used, right? A whole list of reading materials. And then any samples of any like writings, worksheets, workbooks, creative materials, anything that your child did. So what I've been doing, honestly, is taking one of these magazine holders, and I've been putting any kind of paper, artwork, writing that my child is doing. I've just been putting it in there, and it's stuffed probably almost to the max right now. But you save that for up to 2 years because, just in case the school, the district school superintendent wants to look at it. Okay. And so that's it. That's literally it. And then you just get an evaluation. And the evaluation has to be done within a year of that date, right? That date that you started the establishment of the homeschool program. And you do that once a year. And it's anywhere from, I don't know, like $25 to $40 or so. And that's it. Like, that's all we have to do in Florida. And we keep attendance, of course. And that's it. Okay. So I have some resources here. This is probably the best for you in Florida here, the FPEA. It has everything, every single thing you could think of on there, the statutes, the laws, the sample letters. That's where I got my sample letter. And I just beefed it up a little bit. And then this is a website I actually came across yesterday, where every Black homeschooler should know about these websites. Some awesome, wonderful, wonderful websites. So those are some free resources for you. And just a note here about the Florida Parent Educators Association, or FPEA. If you join them, then you get extra perks. You can go to their conference, annual conference, which I think is being held this summer in June in Orlando. And you can join as a member at a reduced rate if you join as a group. And so at some point, I do plan on joining as a group and creating a group so that I can join and be able to support moms, urban moms who are interested in homeschooling. So I just wanted to thank you for your attention and open up for any questions or things like that. I'm sorry, this thing is like opening up. Relatively escort provide optical code reader for reading key code to use tap APS. Tap optical reader Anybody have any questions? Yes. Hi. Okay. So when I did the homeschooling program, which is something that I can tell you more about in detail off of this call, but when I did that program, what happened was it was technically a co-op, right? So the majority of the homeschooling has to be done by the parent in order for you to be calling it homeschooling. Which means that on days outside of the co-op, you need to be instructing your child. So the co-op is only a 3 hour, 4 hour ordeal. And during the 3 hour ordeal, it's one teacher teaching, the way that the program runs, exactly the way the program wants us to teach. But majority of the time, when you're saying someone's homeschooling, it's because they are doing majority of the teaching. Yes. Yes, it was the same curriculum because of the way that program was structured, where we weren't going in depth to say, I'm gonna say something that I know we haven't covered, just so it's not like cray cray. All right, so for example, um, I should have had a perfect example already ready. If I wanted to teach my child about, let's say, sine waves, right? Like the little waves in like calculus and stuff like that, right? I was literally only teaching them what that kind of wave is called. That's it. And what would happen is when I taught them, I said, "Hey, this is what this wave is called." They would see the wave when they would go outside and play with the rope. And now they're shaking the rope. And they're like, "Oh, mom, it looks like that wave." Okay? That's sort of the beauty of homeschooling, right? Is that they're going to see opportunities to apply what they've learned in different settings. And so at that point, when they're shaking this rope, I can point out to them that the higher they shake the rope, the higher the wave is going to go, the thinner the wave is, right? And I can point out those things. But to say that they absolutely, at age 4 and 5, need to know what the equation is for that, absolutely not. But by the time they get into like pre calculus or calculus level kind of like work, it's not going to be as foreign to them. Does that make sense? So so that's kind of why that program worked so well. And what's cool about it is you don't have to be a part of that community to do it. You can just buy the book on your own, use the book on your own, and you just go like that. And so for me, for my sake, and this is sort of a separate conversation, if I were to do a co-op of some sort, it would be tailored to creating more of that social engagement, that the opportunities for social skills, but also for extracurriculars, right? So the art, the physical activity, maybe the gardening, um, maybe different play dates at parks, things like that. That's what I would like to try to facilitate for moms, urban moms. So I hope that helps. Okay. April, I see you on. Any questions? Let's see. I don't know. Hey, April. Any questions for me? Somebody's talking to me. So cute. So that's pretty much it. Was there anything on my slides that stood out to you that maybe you didn't know before? No, I can't hear you. April? Yeah, they totally asked me, how did he get so smart? I just noticed this little group chat thing on the side. Yeah. Okay, so you came in on the 11th slide. Yeah, so you got the little, you got a little gist of it. Yeah, so I mean, for the you'll be able to play it back. Thankfully, I don't know why I'm showing you all this stuff here, but if you have any questions, maybe you can type it in the chat box, April, and I'll be happy to answer it. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. Well, questions. I'm going to just let you know again, like I said, I'm here as a resource for you. I did the work of trying to research all this stuff and navigate throughout our area here, what it looks like. And I would love to help walk along this journey with you and hopefully facilitate, again, some of those opportunities for our children to build social skills if that's something that you want to do. So I don't want that to be a hindrance for you. 30 days within the time that you start homeschooling, you need to send that letter of intent within 30 days. So if you said, okay, like I did, honestly, I thought I was going to start September 1st. I ended up starting a little later than that. Well, actually, no, I think I started September 1st, and then I just went ahead and I sent it by the 19th or something. So within 30 days. So as soon as this video is over, YouTube is going to make it available on my channel, and you should be able to replay it. Let me see what else. I am on Facebook and on YouTube, and clearly, right? And on I'm trying to think, where else am I? Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Metro Mommy Agency. So you might want to follow me there if you're not already following me, and connect with me there if you have any questions. I have connections to other homeschooling moms and people that if you ever want to talk to, I can just link you up with them. And also I have certain groups that I know I'm a part of on there that I can share with you if you want to join them. So if you stay connected, I think you can reach your homeschooling goals as well. So I hope that helps you all. I hope it, sheds some light. And I hope that you continue staying in touch. All right. If you want to learn more about me and what I do with Metro Mommy Agency in helping pregnant moms and their families, you can always visit my website, www.metromommyagency.com. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm sorry, real quick, April had a question. I know of a lot of communities in West Palm Beach area. Actually, when you go on the FPEA website and you do a search for their groups, they have quite a few. Like, it's just for some reason in my area here in Miami, North Miami Beach in particular, we don't have as many. So that's partly why I want to start a group. Because we're sort of destitute when it comes to that. So keep in touch. I also know of childcare providers, if you ever so need them in this area, that I trust and that I even keep my own kids with. So if you need that kind of referral or that kind of info, and they are 24/7. So I mean, late night, date nights, that kind of a thing. Anyway, we can support you. Let me know. I hope that helps, and I hope you all have a great night. But feel free to comment in the box below when you do see this video on YouTube, and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.